Access your free language gifts right now, before they expire. Here's what you're getting this month. First, the Connecting Thoughts Conversation Cheat Sheet. Do you know how to connect ideas in your target language? With this cheat sheet, you'll learn the sentence structure X, but Y, plus must-know adverbs for connecting ideas. So download it for free right now. Second, the How to Stay Motivated with Language Learning ebook. If you want to know secrets and tricks that will help you stay motivated so you can stay consistent with your language journey and finally become fluent, you'll want this ebook. Download it right now. Third, can you talk about herbs and spices in your target language? Learn how to say garlic, ginger, pepper, and much more with this quick vocabulary bonus. Fourth, the 20 must-know hygiene words. If you're learning the language but don't know how to say toilet paper, soap, or toothpaste, then you definitely need this 1-minute vocabulary lesson. Fifth, do you know how to talk about the weather in your target language? If you don't, access this 1-minute lesson to learn 40 weather-related words and phrases. If you want to learn these words fast, use the free audio slideshow tool inside the lesson. Sixth, looking for a new language learning app? With the Innovative 101 app, you'll learn language fast and start speaking in minutes because the audio and video lessons are just 3 to 15 minutes long. Learning is that easy. Download Innovative 101 for free for the Android, iPhone, and iPad. And finally, the deal of the month. If you want to finally master the language with lessons by real teachers and our complete language learning program, get 33% off Premium or Premium Plus with the Monster Sale. To get your gifts and language learning resources, click the link in the lesson description below. Download them right now before they expire. Hi everybody, welcome back to Ask Alicia, the weekly series where you ask me questions and I answer them. Maybe. First question this week comes from Manuel Carlos. Hi Manuel. Manuel says, hi there. When it comes to inversions in formal English to give emphasis, I have 2 questions. First, I talked to an American English native speaker about it and was told these structures are no longer used. They were used back in the 1920s. What do you think? Second, in one of my books, it says that we can also use once in a while and very often at the beginning of the sentences for emphasis. The point is that these 2 expressions are not listed in other books or video classes. What are your thoughts? Some examples. Very often does she come here. Very often do they arrive late. Once in a while does he wash his car. Once in a while do I drink alcohol. Thank you very much. Interesting question. Inversion is still used today, though as you've said, it's used more in like formal situations or it's used in like poetic kinds of writing. So situations where having control over the rhythm and the feel of a sentence is really strongly desired. So inversion, it is still used today. But a key point, and this is in regard to the second part of your question, a key point though is to note that when we make sentences that use this inversion pattern, we're using negative adverbs and negative adverbial phrases at the beginning. So perhaps this is what you've seen in other textbooks and in other videos. And this is what makes me think that your examples or the sentences that you provided are not so natural. This is because very often and once in a while are not negative adverbial expressions. So to make them negative, you could say not very often, like not very often does she wash her car or whatever. So, but that's not really something that I feel is so natural. We wouldn't really say that. The other example that you provided, once in a while, we could make that one negative by adding only, like only once in a while do I drink alcohol. So that's something that I feel might actually be said. Only once in a while do I. That sounds like a more natural pattern. I don't really feel that the not very often pattern would so often be used as like in kind of like these inversion type sentences. So to answer your question, yes, they are still used in certain situations, yes. Perhaps not so much in everyday conversation, at least not in American English. You maybe could hear it a little bit more in British English, I suppose. And also, the focus generally is on using negative adverbs and negative adverbial phrases at the beginning of those. So I hope that this helps you. Thanks very much for this interesting question. Okay, let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Nuria Garayeva. Hello, Nuria. Nuria says, hello, Alicia. Can you explain the difference between which and that? Sure, I have talked about this topic many times, but not very recently, so let's refresh ourselves. The short answer is that the difference between that and which is that is used for restrictive clauses and which is used for non-restrictive clauses. So what's a restrictive clause? What's a non-restrictive clause? A restrictive clause is a clause in a sentence that gives us essential information about a noun. We need that information about the noun in order to understand the noun completely. A non-restrictive clause is a clause in a sentence that gives us extra or like bonus information about the noun. If we don't have that clause, we can still understand the noun. So there may be different words that are used for restrictive or non-restrictive, like descriptive or non-descriptive clauses, but they're talking about the same things. So let's take a look at an example of a restrictive clause and a non-restrictive clause. The phone that I bought at the Apple store works perfectly. This phone, which I bought at the Apple store, works perfectly. Okay, so these two sentences, they have essentially the same information. So why am I saying one is a restrictive clause and why is one a non-restrictive clause? So in this case, we understand easily. I'm talking about this phone, yes. Like we know in both cases it's this phone. But where restrictive clauses become important is in cases where, for example, we have many phones. Let's imagine the speaker has 3 phones and the speaker needs to differentiate. The speaker needs to communicate which phone he or she is talking about in the conversation. We can use restrictive clauses to do that. So, for example, the phone that I got at the Apple store works perfectly. The phone that I bought from a secondhand shop is really slow. The phone that I received from my company is a little old. So in those sentences, we're using that because we're giving some specific identifying information about each phone. So in a case like that, where we're talking about 3 different objects and we need to make the differences very clear, we would use a restrictive clause. In cases where it's not so important, like when we clearly know, I mean this phone right here, we can use which and a non-restrictive clause to talk about the phone. So this is the basic difference between that and which. Of course, native speakers don't always get this correct, unfortunately. So you may see people using the two interchangeably. But that's actually one very common way of differentiating the two. So if you want to know more about this topic, I made a video about this. Please check out the relative clauses, which or that video on the English Class 101 YouTube channel for some more examples and for some more explanation. I hope that that helps you. Thanks for the question. Okay, let's go to your next question. Next question comes from Nicole. Hi, Nicole. Nicole says, let me know whether you can use if I were you, I will. Sure. You cannot use this pattern. If you want to begin your if conditional statement with if I were you, you need to use something in your main clause that reflects an unreal or an untrue situation. This is because if I were you is unreal. It's not true. I am not you. That's not real. So our main clause needs to match our if clause. Our main clause needs to include would or wouldn't to match the were in the if clause. So if I were you, I would, or if I were you, I wouldn't. For example, if I were you, I would take a vacation. Or if I were you, I wouldn't quit my job. So you cannot use will. In place of will, please use would or wouldn't. I hope that that helps you. Thanks for the question. Okay, let's go to your next question. Next question comes from Pandy. Hi, Pandy. Pandy says, authorization, authentication. What is the difference? Okay, sure. Both are nouns. Authorization is the act of allowing someone to do something. Authentication is the process of proving that something or someone is true or real. Some examples. I need management authorization to enter the secret room in the building. We finally got authorization to move forward with a new product. The thief's paperwork didn't pass authentication. Unknown login detected. User authentication required. So the last example sentence there about user authentication is one that you might see online. Like if someone tries to access your account, or maybe if you try to access your email or your social media account from like a different place, or something strange happens with your account, you might be requested to do user authentication, which means proving that you are you, which we usually do through like checking an email address or phone number or something similar. So authentication refers to checking to see if something is true. Authorization refers to the act or the process of allowing someone to do something. So I hope that that helps you. Thanks very much for the question. Okay, on to our next question. Next question comes from Silas Fass. Hi, Silas. Silas says, hi, Alicia. How's it going? Good. My question is about the structure to be to in the following sentences. The Queen is to visit Canada. You are to wear formal clothing to the White House dinner. You are not to leave the room. Could you explain how it works? Yeah, nice question. We use this to be plus the infinitive form of a verb when we're talking about like official rules, or we're talking about like an official schedule. So this is not something that we use so much in everyday conversation in American English. It's usually in a formal situation, like when we're taking a test, or we're talking about an official schedule, or we're talking about official rules, like in an examination situation, or maybe like a big organization. When we want to make a negative rule too, we place not before the verb. So, some more examples of this. Students are not to exit the room until the exam has finished. Guests are to leave their shoes at the door. Employees are to check in when they begin work. So I hope that this helps you. This structure is for formal or official rules and schedules. Thanks very much for the question. Okay, that is everything that I have for this week. Thanks, as always, for sending your questions. And remember, you can send them to me at englishclass101.com/ask-Alicia. Of course, if you liked this week's lesson, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And check us out at englishclass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this week's episode of Ask Alicia, and I will see you again next week. Bye-bye. Hi everybody, welcome back to Ask Alicia, the weekly series where you ask me questions and I answer them. Maybe. Okay, let's get to your first question this week. First question this week comes from Aisha Abdullah. Hi Aisha. Aisha says, hi Alicia, can you please talk about how and where to use apostrophes? Which of these options is correct? Okay, so take a look at the 3 examples that are on this screen and note the places where the apostrophes are in each of these. So I'll talk about this. The sentence is, the 2 buildings' doors and windows. Okay, sure. So we can use apostrophes to show possession and to show the reduced forms of words like it's or can't and so on. So those are the 2 ways that we use apostrophes. In this explanation, I'm going to focus on using apostrophes for possessives. So actually, to address your question about which example sentence is correct, none of those examples are correct. The correct use of an apostrophe in this sentence would be just an apostrophe after the S in buildings. So the 2 buildings, apostrophe, doors and windows. That's the only place that we need an apostrophe. This is because the doors and windows in the sentence kind of belong to the 2 buildings. So the 2 buildings are the subject. So we don't need to use like an apostrophe, we don't need to use some kind of possessive marker after doors and windows because we're not showing that the doors or the windows are like the owners of something. Actually here, the buildings are like the owners. So we mark the possession with an apostrophe. To go a little bit deeper into why this is, when we have a word that ends in S, we use an apostrophe, but we do not add another S to the word. Please note though, we do not ever use apostrophes to make nouns plural. As a general guide then, when you are using a noun that ends in an S, simply add an apostrophe after the S to show possession. If the noun does not end in an S, add apostrophe S to show possession. So let's look at a couple examples of nouns that end in S, in the singular and in the plural form. For example, the dress's color, that's singular, and the dress's colors, plural. The car's lights. So you can see that even though the singular form and the plural form have the same pronunciation, by that I mean like the dress's color and the dress's colors, we understand that one is plural because the following word is plural. So in the first example sentence there, the dress's color. So the dress ends in S, yes, and we show possession with an apostrophe after the S, and then a singular color. So that shows us it's one color, one dress. In the second example though, the dress's colors. So dresses is plural. In speech they sound the same, but plural, dresses, is followed by an apostrophe to show possession, and then we follow that with colors in the plural also. So this shows us that it's not just one dress, and we can hear that also in speech. So it shows us it's not just one dress, it's two dresses or more, and we know that because more than one color is described there. So we can generally guess these sorts of things from context. But again, this is for nouns that end in S, whether they're plural or singular. Let's compare this then to nouns that do not end in S. When a noun does not end in S, we simply add apostrophe S to show possession. Some examples. The children's books, the team's work, our hotel's staff. So these all end in apostrophe S because the noun itself does not end in S. So this is the general rule for using apostrophes to show possession. So please do remember we do not use apostrophes to show plural forms of words. I hope that this helps you. Thanks very much for the question. Okay, let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Amar Ismail. Hello, Amar. Amar says, hey, Alicia, what does beat the rap mean and how can I use it? Okay, cool. So to beat the rap means to escape from punishment, and it's usually punishment that you deserve. So it's like you did something wrong, you should be punished, but you escape somehow. So this is an interesting expression. I found some history, some information about this expression, and this rap means like legal punishment or like the punishment that is official for you. And rap, this meaning of rap or this use of rap comes from, or it can come from, the expression to rap someone's knuckles. So the knuckles are this part of your hand, so this part of your finger really. The places where like your fingers can bend, those are called your knuckles. So a common punishment a long time ago for school children was to rap kids' knuckles as a punishment for bad behavior. So to rap something means to hit or like strike in a strong way, like quickly, sharply. So this is the verb form of rap, but because of that, to rap became associated with punishment. Therefore, to beat the rap means to like conquer or to overcome some kind of punishment. So to beat the rap means to get away with something, in other words, or to find a way to escape the punishment that's due to you. So in an example sentence, you could say something like, I came home late and my mom was really mad, but I beat the rap by telling her that I had to take a friend home. Or he made a huge mistake at work, but he beat the rap by blaming it on computer problems. So to beat the rap means like to escape somehow from punishment that you are probably supposed to receive. You're probably supposed to get that. You might also hear a similar expression, which is take the rap, take the rap. So again, rap refers to punishment, but to take the rap means to take the punishment that should be for somebody else. So you didn't do anything wrong, somebody else did, but you decide to like take their punishment instead. So you might hear that expression used too. So another point to mention is that this is not such a common phrase these days. You might hear like take the hit to mean take someone else's punishment, but we don't really use this expression so much in everyday speech, at least in American English these days. But if you encounter this in like a movie or in a book, maybe that's what it means. So I hope that this is helpful for you. Thanks very much for the question. Okay, let's move on to your next question. Next question is from Hector. Hi, Hector. Hector says, hi, Alicia. I want to know how to refer to a person who asks a lot of questions. I think it's something like inquire or curious, but I'm not sure. For example, in a job interview, how do I explain that I consider myself a person who likes to ask questions if something is not clear for me? Okay, yeah, I think in this case, maybe the best word would be inquisitive. Inquisitive. So inquisitive is an adjective. It means someone who likes to ask a lot of questions, someone who naturally asks lots of questions about things. Curious is similar, yes. Curious sounds like you're naturally interested in learning things, like maybe you want to look and see lots of different things, but it doesn't only mean like wanting to ask questions. Inquisitive has this feeling of like really asking questions and trying to learn things. So my kind of impression of an inquisitive person is generally positive, maybe someone who's kind of smart and interested in learning things. It's pretty good. But if you ask a lot of questions, especially personal questions, you can be perceived as nosy. So nosy is another adjective which refers to someone who likes to ask questions, yes, but they're generally too personal. It's too much. It's like someone who likes to gossip about other people's lives. So there's kind of a fine line, like they're a bit close, inquisitive and nosy. So inquisitive is generally a good thing, but you don't want to be nosy. So in this case, I would say inquisitive. However, as you mentioned in your example, if you want to talk about liking to ask lots of questions in order to make something clear, that is not how we would use inquisitive. We use inquisitive to talk about somebody who naturally wants to learn about things and asks questions, like just because they want to learn, not because something is unclear. Like it has the feeling of something that a person does from like internal motivation. They just want to know things. They're not trying to like fix a mistake or try to understand something that is difficult for them at work. So we wouldn't really use inquisitive in that case. Instead, we would probably use an expression exactly like the one that you presented. You would say something like, I'm the kind of person that prefers to ask lots of questions if something is not clear to me. So that's a very natural response. If you want to express that you are inquisitive, like you naturally like to ask questions, you can say that too, though. I'm an inquisitive person. So I hope that this helps you. Thanks very much for the question. Okay, let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Alexander. Hi, Alexander. Alexander says, hi, Alicia. My name is Alexander, or Alex, and I'm from Brazil. I was studying collocations, and yesterday, when I was studying about coffee, I found 3 words that I have never seen before. 1, percolated, 2, lukewarm, and 3, tepid. I would like to know if these words are common in everyday speech. I've been in Dublin for 1 year, and I've not heard them so far. Thanks. Okay, great, interesting question. First, let's talk about the word collocation so everybody can understand what this means. A collocation is a word that is commonly used with another word. So for example, with this word, coffee, a common collocation of coffee is cup. So cup and coffee often go together because of the expression coffee cup, for example. So we can also use this as a verb, to collocate. So when we want to use it as a verb, we could say, the word cup collocates with coffee. So that refers to 2 words, or maybe more, that are often used together. Studying collocations can be really helpful because you can see which words are commonly used together, and it can help you to make more natural word choices. So now that we know what collocations are, let's take a look at these examples. The first word was percolated. In this case, you have it in the past tense verb form. So to percolate means to cause a liquid to pass through another substance that is not a liquid, to pass through a permeable substance. So a permeable substance is a substance, it's not solid. So we can pass liquid through it, or like sunlight can come through a window. A window can be permeable. So things can pass through. this substance. So like soil, like dirt, is a permeable substance, or coffee grounds are a permeable thing. So permeable substances are kind of the key point for this word. Liquid passes through those. So percolate, on the other hand, is actually like a very scientific word. So we don't use it so much in everyday speech to talk about making coffee. When we want to talk about coffee, we say, I'm going to make coffee. We don't generally say, I'm going to percolate water through the coffee grounds. It sounds very scientific and very stiff, and we don't generally say this, but you might encounter it if you are reading some information about like expensive coffee beans, or if you are learning about a very like expensive coffee shop and they want to share information like the detailed process of how they make their coffee. You might see it in that way, but generally percolate is not so common in everyday speech. So I hope that answers that one. The second though, and the third for that matter, were lukewarm and tepid. Lukewarm and tepid mean the same thing. So they both mean just sort of warm. Like it's kind of like room temperature or a little bit cooler than body temperature. So lukewarm and tepid are both used to refer to the temperature of coffee. So most people want coffee hot or cold. Lukewarm coffee is generally not a good thing. So we could say, I hate drinking lukewarm coffee, or this coffee is tepid. So that means that it's not at a good temperature. It's like this room temperature coffee. So lukewarm and tepid are more commonly used in speech than percolate. For me personally, I tend to use lukewarm a lot more than tepid, but other people might prefer to use tepid more. Those two words are fairly commonly used. Percolate is not as commonly used, but you might see it from time to time. So I hope that this helps you, and good luck with your continued studies of collocations. Okay, let's move on to our next question. Next question for this week comes from Sanju. Hi again, Sanju. Sanju says, hi Alicia, how are you? I've been watching your videos for a long time. My question is, what is the difference between no longer and any longer? Okay, nice question. The meaning of these expressions is the same. It's totally the same. We use it to refer to something that was true up until this point and into the future will not be true. So the difference is actually just in how we make the sentence. There are a couple of changes that we need to think about in the structure of our sentences when we use these. So let's take a look at two example sentences. First, we will no longer offer free lunch for staff. We will not offer free lunch for staff any longer. Okay, so in the first example sentence, you can see that no longer comes before the verb. In this case, the verb is offer. So when we want to use no longer, we typically place it before the verb in the sentence. You may hear no longer coming at the end of a sentence, especially in short sentences, but that kind of sounds old-fashioned. So these days we tend to use it in front of the verb. So we will no longer offer free lunch for staff. On the other hand, when we use any longer, we need to put it at the end of the sentence, and we put a negative, we need to put not before the verb earlier in the sentence. So we will not offer free lunch for staff any longer. So these are the differences in terms of the structure of the sentences that we need to think about. One more additional point, if you want to use any more, follow the same pattern as any longer. They mean the same thing. So let's take a look at one more pair of examples. I can no longer wait, or I can wait no longer, and I can't wait any longer. So we follow the same pattern here. In the first example, which uses no longer, we put that before the verb. I can no longer wait. And I gave the example of no longer at the end of the sentence too, but this sounds rather old-fashioned and kind of too polite. The second one, however, you might notice instead of using not wait, I've made can into can't. So I can't wait any longer. This is because it sounds more natural. So the original sentence could be I can not wait any longer, but we can combine can and not into can't, and that sounds much more natural. So I can't wait any longer. So they have the same meanings, yes, it's just a difference in terms of how you build the sentences with these words. So thanks very much for an interesting question, and I hope that that helped you. Thanks very much. Okay, that is everything that I have for this week. Thank you, as always, for sending your questions. Remember to send them to me at englishclass101.com/ask-Alicia. Of course, if you liked this week's lesson, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and check us out at englishclass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this week's episode of Ask Alicia, and I will see you again next week. Bye-bye. Hi everybody, welcome back to Ask Alicia, the weekly series where you ask me questions and I answer them. Maybe. First question this week comes from Sadaf Yasmin. Hi Sadaf. Sadaf says, hi Alicia, I have two questions. First, what does ain't mean and how do you use it? I've seen this word in lyrics, like ain't nobody who makes me feel this way. My second question, what does the phrase wide awake mean? I read it in the sentence, lying here wide awake on my own now. I couldn't completely understand it. Okay, first, let's talk about ain't. Nice question. Ain't is a really interesting word because it can mean a lot of things. It can mean is not, are not, am not, have not, and has not. It can mean all of those things. And ain't is also considered a very casual, kind of rough, in some cases cool word, and it really depends on the person who uses it. So for example, in the US, the images that we have that are associated with the word ain't are like maybe country western like musicians or maybe like cowboys. They might use the word ain't to sound kind of casual or rough and cool. You might also hear ain't used in other music like pop music or rap or R&B. Again, the feeling of ain't is kind of casual, it's kind of rough, it's like tough maybe sometimes as well too. So it really depends on the personality of the person who's using the word. Ain't is also special because we follow the word ain't with a negative. So as in your example, you said ain't nobody, or another example might be something like ain't never done this thing. So it feels actually very strange for me to say that because I'm not the type of person who would use the word ain't. But when we use ain't, we follow it with a negative, like ain't nobody. So in your example, ain't nobody who makes me feel this way means there isn't anybody who makes me feel this way. So in many cases, like with your example here, we follow ain't with a negative, like ain't nobody, or ain't no, or ain't nothing. So this just means isn't, or are not, whatever follows that. But there might be some cases where you don't see a negative after ain't, like I ain't having that, or I ain't buying that. So that just means the negative. I am not buying that, or they are not doing that. So again, this really depends on the person. This really depends maybe on the region as well too. So pay attention to the kinds of people that you see and hear using this word, and maybe you can kind of understand the times at which it might be appropriate to use it and whether or not it's good for you to use the word too. As I mentioned, I personally don't use this word, but this is how we use it in American English anyway. Regarding your second question about the expression wide awake, to be wide awake means to be awake, but we use it at a time when we are usually asleep. So for example, maybe at like 2 in the morning, most people are asleep usually. But if you are wide awake, it's like you're awake and you cannot close your eyes and go to sleep. So it might be helpful to think of your eyes, like your eyes themselves, as being wide open. Like you cannot close your eyes. You are wide awake. So you can't go to sleep. Usually we use this expression at a time when we should be asleep. So for example, I woke up at 2 a.m. I was wide awake for hours. Or when I got up to use the bathroom, I saw my dog was wide awake. It was weird. So wide awake is used in this way to talk about being awake at kind of a strange time. I hope that this helps you. Thanks for the questions. Okay, let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Rubo. Hi, Rubo. Rubo says, hi, Alicia. What is the difference between scrape and scratch? Good question. Generally, well, in many cases, they do have the same meaning. But For scrape, we use scrape usually with non-living things, and we use scrape when we're talking about taking a very heavy or a very sharp object across a surface. We often use scrape when we're talking about trying to remove something that is difficult to remove. So for example, oh no, I scraped my car on the gate, or I scraped the paint off the wall with a knife. So it's like there's some kind of heavy or sharp object moving across another surface, oftentimes with the intent or with the plan to remove something else. Scratch, on the other hand, is something that we use much more commonly with living things, so with people or with animals. We use scratch usually when we're talking about like using a sharp part of our body, like nails or claws or maybe even teeth. We talk about using something sharp and dragging that across a surface. So for example, I might say like, ouch, I scratched my arm, or be careful, my cat might scratch you. So scratch is typically used with humans, with living things, and scrape is usually used to talk about like maybe machines or other very heavy and sharp objects being pulled or dragged across a surface. So I hope that this helps you. Thanks for the question. Okay, let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Saif Aldin. Hi, Saif. Saif says, hi, Alicia. Can you explain why we use out and in or up? Like when someone says, I go up to the door and I open it. If it were me, I would say, I go to the door and I open it. What is the difference between the two sentences? Thanks. Yeah, super great question. We often use up along with bodily motion, like physical motion related verbs, to mean we did that action up until a point. So we went to that thing or we moved to that thing and stopped. So verbs that we use this with commonly are like walk, run, open, close, go as well. So we use up after these to mark the point at which that action stopped. You might also hear over used with this. So as in your example, I walked up to the door and opened it, or I went up to the door and opened it, means I moved until the point of the door and then I opened it. So it shows the point at which an activity or an action stopped. Another situation you might use that is like talking to someone at your office. Like I walked up to my boss and asked if she had a moment. Another example might be, my coworker ran over to my desk to help me. So using up and over in these ways, followed by to, marks the point at which some action stopped. So you can use up and over to do this. We don't really use down. You might hear down used if you're talking about traveling, like I'm going down to this city, or I'm going down to the post office. You might hear that used. But generally when we're talking about like these bodily, these physical activities, we'll use up to mark the stopping point. So I hope that that helps you regarding up and over. Regarding in and out, however, these follow the same rules as the prepositions themselves follow. So we typically use these when we're talking about entering or exiting a building, like or other location. So for example, he walked into the bank, or they ran out of the police station. So we can use these same verbs relating to bodily motions, relating to movement. And when we use in and out with those, we're talking about moving from one location to outside that location and the opposite. So from moving outside of a location to inside of a location. So in and out follows the prepositional rules. So I hope that this helps you. Thanks very much for the question. All right, that is everything that I have for this week. Thank you, as always, for sending your questions. Remember, you can send them to me at EnglishClass101.com/ask-Alicia. Of course, if you like this week's episode, please don't forget to hit the like button, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to our channel if you have not already. Thanks very much for watching this week's episode of Ask Alicia, and I will see you again next week. Bye-bye. Hi everybody, welcome back to Ask Alicia, the weekly series where you ask me questions and I answer them. Maybe. All right, let's get to your first question. First question this week comes from Fabio. Hi Fabio. Fabio says, hello Alicia. I would like to know the meaning of the expression every other day. Can I also say every other week, every other year, every other hour, minute? Thanks a lot. Yep, every other day refers to a schedule of activities in which you do one thing for one day and then the next day you take it off, that you don't do the activity the next day. The following day you do the activity, then the next day you don't do the activity. So it's this one day on, one day off pattern. We call this an every other day schedule. So yes, you can replace day in this expression with another time period. So you could say every other year or every other hour, every other minute, whatever. It just means you do something for one unit of time, so 1 year or 1 hour or 1 minute, and then the following period of time, you do not do that thing. So yes, you could use this to express something like every other minute. I'm not sure what activity you need to talk about and use every other minute to describe it, but you could do it. So every other day is a very common way to express this one day on, one day off pattern. I hope that this helps you. Thanks for the question. Okay, let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Clinton. Hi, Clinton. Clinton says, when I meet a person that tries to speak a language with me that I don't understand, what should I say in English to respond? You can say, I don't speak that language. So you could say, I don't speak Spanish, or I don't speak Dutch, or I don't speak Chinese. You could just say something very direct like that. You don't have to say, I'm sorry. I suppose if you want to, you could, but you don't really have to apologize in this situation. Just be direct. I don't speak that language. You could follow up this statement by saying something like, do you speak English, or do you speak your native language? So if the person maybe needs help, or if you're trying to communicate with that person, you can try to find a solution. Try to find a common language by asking, do you speak English, or do you speak Spanish, or whatever your native language is. So again, just to respond, I don't speak that language. I hope that this helps you. Thanks for the question. Okay, let's move on to your next question. Next question is from Sanju. Hi, Sanju. Sanju says, hi Alicia and team, how are you all? My question, what is the difference between dying to and vying for, and how do we use them properly? Okay, we use dying to for things that we want to do very, very much. So we're like exaggerating. We're making this desire for something seem much stronger than it is. We tend to use this in casual situations. For example, I'm dying to watch that movie. Or we've been dying to go to that new restaurant. So we're expressing a strong desire for something, and it's usually something that's kind of casual, kind of light. Vying for, on the other hand, is used in like competitive situations. So you might hear it in sports, you might hear it in business, you might hear it in politics. When two or more people are trying to get the same result or the same outcome, we can express that with vying for. Different from dying to, which is followed by a verb, vying for is followed by a noun phrase. So vying for, noun phrase, where the noun phrase is the desired result, the desired outcome. So some examples of this might be, the two candidates were vying for the mayor's position. Or all of the children were vying for the teacher's attention. So vying for something means actively engaged in trying to win something. But that's quite a long expression, so we say vying for. The base verb is to vie for something. So this is the difference between dying to, which expresses a strong desire for something, and vying for, which also expresses a desire to win something, but we talk about this along with the desired result, not the desired action. So I hope that this helps you. Thanks very much for the question. Okay, let's move on to our next question. Next question comes from Anmal Virk. Hello, Anmal. Anmal says, hung or hanged, snuck or sneaked? Yes, this is a question about the past tense forms of verbs. So the first one, hung or hanged. The verb in question here is the verb to hang, to hang. So should we use hung or should we use hanged for past tense? The answer in most cases is you should use hung. For example, he hung a picture on the wall, or we hung our coats up in the closet. When you're talking about this action of putting something on a wall or putting clothing on a hanger, please use hung, the past tense hung. Hanged, on the other hand, has a very specific use. We use hanged when we're talking about someone who has been punished with death by hanging. So hanging is a very specific type of death penalty in which a rope is tied around a person's neck and the rope is used to end the person's life. When we want to talk about this in past tense, we use hanged, as in the criminal was hanged, or hundreds of years ago, many people were hanged for crimes. So hanged is used in this specific case. In all other cases of the verb hang in present tense, please use hung to refer to the past form of the verb. So this is quite a clear distinction in terms of meaning. Please keep it in mind when you're speaking and when you're writing too. Regarding your other question about the past tense form of the verb sneak, there are two forms, and there are two forms that remain today actually. Originally, this is according to Merriam-Webster, my favorite dictionary. According to Merriam-Webster, sneaked was the original past tense form of this verb, but in the late 1800s or so, snuck began being used. So today, we still use both of them actually, snuck and sneaked. Some examples then might be like, I snuck into the office late last night, or she sneaked around the neighborhood. So you can use both of them. I personally feel that I like snuck better. That could just be me. But whatever you choose, please just be consistent with it. So I hope that this helps you. Thanks for the question. Okay, let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Anathu Shaji. Hi, Anathu. Anathu says, could you please explain the differences between ever since and since then? Sure. While they have the same meaning, the structure of the sentence changes depending on which one you use. So let's take a look at a couple of example sentences. I graduated college last year. Since then, I've worked in a tech company. And ever since I graduated college, I've worked in a tech company. So these sentences communicate the same idea. The speaker graduated college, and since that point in time, the speaker has worked at a tech company. So we can use both since then and ever since to describe that. The difference is that since then tends to follow a past tense statement. In the first example sentence, it was, I graduated college last year. So we have a simple past tense statement there. Since then refers to the point in time that was described in the previous sentence. So in this case, last year. Since that point in time, I referred to in the previous sentence. So this is a common position for since then. Ever since, however, can take a couple different positions in the sentence. In this example, I've placed it before the simple past tense action. Ever since I graduated college, so we can place it before the action. You may also see ever since used in the same position as since then. So for example, I graduated college. Ever since, I've worked in a tech company. Though in these cases, as you might have noticed in this example, I've omitted the specific point in time. So instead of saying, I graduated college last year, ever since, I've worked in a tech company. You might hear some people remove that specific point in time. It's just kind of the speaker's preference, I suppose. But ever since can take a lot of different positions. We don't see since then taking these different positions. So since then, again, refers to a specific point in time. That then in since then means that point in time I just referred to. So we have to have that. We don't have that then in ever since, so that means we don't have to refer to a specific point in time, and that's why it sounds kind of natural sometimes not to use this paired together with a specific point in time in your past tense statement. You might hear people say ever since then, in which case, yes, you must include a point in time in the past. But this is the difference. It's the positioning of the expression in the sentence and the relationship of the past tense statement to the outcome. So I hope that this helps you. Thanks very much for the question. Okay, that is everything that I have for you this week. Thank you, as always, for sending your great questions. Remember, you can send them to me at englishclass101.com/ask-Alicia. Of course, if you like this lesson, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and check us out at englishclass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this week's episode of Ask Alicia, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye. Hi everybody, welcome back to Ask Alicia, the weekly series where you ask me questions and I answer them. Baby. Okay, let's get to your first question this week. First question this week comes from Henry Laurent Kosasi. Hello, Henry. Henry says, I once heard this conversation in a TV series. A, how much are we short? B, $18.30. My question is the expression, "How much are we short?" commonly used in spoken English to describe this kind of situation? Thanks. Love from Indonesia. Yes, great question. To be short means to not have enough of something. This is a very common expression, in American English anyway, and we use this short in many different grammatical forms. So in a question, how much are we short means how much more or how many more of this thing do we need. In statements, you might hear, "I'm $3 short," or "He's short by about $150," or "We're short a few chairs. I'll get some from the other room." So you'll notice that there's a by after short in example 2 here in "He's short by about $150. You can choose to include that if the number or if the amount comes after the word short. If the number comes before the word short, you should not include by. So I'm $3 short. I'm $150 short. Perfect. If the number follows short, he's short by about $150, you can include it, but you do not have to, as in the third example sentence. We're short a few chairs. So we do not have to include by, but we can. We're short by a few chairs is also totally correct. So that's up to you. We can also use short in this way to mean not enough as a verb, as in the bartender shorted me on my drink, which means the bartender did not pour enough liquid into my drink. Or, I think the cashier shorted me on my change, which means I think the cashier did not give me enough change. So you may also hear this used as a verb in this way. So yes, to answer your question again, it is a very common expression. It's very useful, and it means to not have enough of something and to recognize that and to kind of make a question or a statement about what should have been provided or what is still needed. So I hope that this helps you. Thanks very much for the question. Let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Nilo Peñaflor. Hello, Nilo. Nilo says, "Hi, Alicia. I'm confused about the word compromise. It has several meanings. Can you please explain it and use it in some sentences?" Sure. I talked a little bit about the difference between compromise and agreement in a recent episode of Ask Alicia, so let's refresh there to begin. A compromise refers to an agreement that you reach, an agreement that you make after changing your plans a little bit. So side A and side B have different ideas about something. They change their ideas slightly and make an agreement. So that agreement is called a compromise. So it's not quite A's idea, not quite B's idea, but they kind of work together to find a solution. So that's a compromise. That's a noun. We can use this as a verb as well. To compromise means to make an agreement after changing both plans a little bit. Where there might be some confusion, however, is in the other ways to use compromise as a verb. We use compromise as a verb to mean to expose or to reveal something that's supposed to be hidden, or to reveal something that is supposed to be secret. So you might have heard it used in this way in like action films, like James Bond movies or like Mission Impossible movies. You might hear a sentence like, for example, "James Bond has been compromised," which means someone realized James Bond, the spy, was in a location and he was supposed to be hidden. He was supposed to be like a secret agent, like no one is supposed to know about him. But someone learns about him. Someone exposes James Bond. He's no longer safe. So compromised in that way refers to something, or in this case someone, being exposed or revealed that was supposed to be confidential, that was supposed to be secret. We can also use compromise as a verb in this way to talk about communication. This can be like phone calls, paperwork, official documents, and so on. In an example sentence, you might hear something like, "The president's phone call was compromised," which means, for example, someone who was not supposed to listen to the phone call heard information, private information. or maybe information inside the call was shared to someone who was not supposed to have the information. So was compromised or has been compromised, as in my James Bond example sentence, you can see that this verb is commonly used in the passive form because we don't always know the recipient of the information. We don't always know the person who exposed something or revealed something. So there is this meaning of compromise. As I said, you will very commonly see this in a passive sentence structure. When you talk about making an agreement with someone, you'll probably see it more, I would say, in an active sentence structure. As a noun then, it's kind of different. So to make a compromise, you'll usually see it in something like that, to make a compromise as part of that expression. So I hope that this gives you a good introduction to the different ways that we use compromise, especially this special meaning of revealing or exposing something that is secret. I hope that this helps you. Thanks for an interesting question. Okay, let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Kunduzai Aderbekova. I hope I said that right. Hello, Kunduzai. Kunduzai says, "Hi, Alicia. My question is about this statement. Is it grammatical to say, I don't feel like, plus verb in the ing form? How do we use it in the correct way? In what cases can I use it? Thanks for your answer." Yes, it is grammatical to say, I don't feel like, verb in the ing form. Totally grammatical, totally natural, totally correct. You could say, I don't feel like watching a movie, or I don't feel like going out tonight, or I don't feel like doing that right now. So this is a very casual expression, which means I am not in the mood for that activity. We usually use it with at this time, or right now, or tonight. It sounds like something you don't want to do now, but maybe you want to do it in the future. Like, I don't feel like watching a movie tonight. Totally natural. You should know, however, that this is a very casual expression. We tend to use this with very close friends or with family members, so people that we have a very close relationship with. I would not recommend you use this at work or in any other professional situation because it sounds like you have kind of a low opinion of that activity. Like, I don't feel like doing that right now. So it sounds like it's kind of emotional or feeling-based decision. So don't use this in professional situations. But yes, you can absolutely use this expression to talk about something you don't want to do at a specific point in time, usually. So I hope that this helps you. Thanks for your question. Okay, let's move on to our next question. Next question comes from Ahmed. Hello, Ahmed. Ahmed said, Adele said, but it don't matter. Why did she say don't with it? Yeah, in terms of standard, like correct English, this is grammatically incorrect. But many singers like to use this kind of technically incorrect grammar to sound kind of cool or to sound kind of rough. So yes, the sentence in like standard English should be, but it doesn't matter. But for various reasons, including like sentence rhythm or song rhythm in this case, or also just to sound kind of cool or rough, a singer or an artist might choose to use on purpose incorrect grammar. In this case, but it don't matter. So if you want to sing along with the song, great, you should use the same words that Adele uses. But if you're speaking and you want to express this idea, make sure you use the correct grammar. But it doesn't matter is actually the correct way to say this. So I hope that this helps you. Thanks for the question. Okay, on to our next question. Next question comes from Rasel. Hello, Rasel. Rasel says, hi, Alicia. My question is, what is the difference between race and ethnicity? Great question. For a very broad answer, so for a very general answer, you can think of race as related to your biology. So this is something that you cannot change. Your race is the stuff that you're born with, essentially. So common things that we think about with race, relating to race, are maybe the color of a person's skin, or the shapes of the features of their face, and so on. So we cannot change race. Ethnicity, on the other hand, is like your cultural identity. So what are like the traditions? What are the shared values in your community? The things that make your community what it is. So to give an example of the difference, imagine you are a person from India and you move to the USA with your family when you're a baby. So you could say, my race is Indian. My ethnicity is Indian American. So that's the difference here. So your race is something you cannot change. Ethnicity may change over time for some people. So this is a very general answer to this question. This is a very big discussion as well too, but a very interesting one. So thanks very much for this interesting question. Okay, that is everything that I have for this week. Thank you as always for sending along your great questions. Remember, you can send them to me at englishclass101.com/ask-Alicia. Of course, if you like this lesson, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel if you have not already, and check us out at englishclass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this week's episode of Ask Alicia, and I will see you again next week. Bye-bye!
How are your English listening skills? First, you'll see an image and hear a question. Next comes a short dialogue. Listen carefully and see if you can answer correctly. We'll show you the answer at the end.
A man and a woman are talking. When is the man painting? Do you paint every day?
Yep, from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m.
9 to 7? 10 hours every day?
Well, yeah, it's my job.
When is the man painting? A man and a woman are talking. When is the man painting? Do you paint every day?
Yep, from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m.
9 to 7? 10 hours every day?
Well, yeah, it's my job.
Did you get it right? I hope you learned something from this quiz. Let us know if you have any questions. See you next time.
Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about some English greetings and their responses. This lesson has been prepared to present American English greetings. Let's get started. Okay, I first want to begin with the most basic and most casual greetings that we use. I've marked some of these with a star, like you'll see here. That means that when you respond to this greeting, you can use the same word. You don't need to worry about a special response. Just use the same word that you heard the person use when they greet you. So these two, the casual, friendly, hey and hi, are very common. We use these with friends, coworkers, colleagues. It's fine to use at any time of day. I included yo here as well. Yo is very casual. Probably don't use this one at work, but you can use this with your friends, your close friends, and your family members if you like it. Yo. So when someone says hey, just say hey. Or if someone uses hi, just respond with hi. Hi sounds a little more stiff than hey. Hey sounds a little more relaxed, a little more friendly. Yo is really relaxed, super casual. You might hear young people use yo a lot more than older people. The next expression here is hello. Hello. You can use hello to greet people that you meet face to face. That's fine. But we usually use hello as the standard phone greeting. It's used when we pick up the phone. Hello, and you can say my name is, or hello, this is, or hello, Alicia speaking, for example. You can use hello on the phone. We tend to use it mostly on the phone. It can be used, it is correct to greet someone with hello in everyday life, face to face, but it might sound a little less friendly than hi or another greeting I'll talk about later. So hello is good for the phone usually. I would recommend using hello for the phone. Okay, then let's go to these three questions. We can respond to these three questions with the same response. Let's read the questions first. First one, how are you? How are you? You'll hear native speakers reduce this a lot. This question is not clearly pronounced as how are you, but we'll say, how are ya? How are ya? It sounds much shorter. How are ya? Instead of how are you? How are ya? How are ya? The answer, good. You? Good. You? This is the standard response. Another question, how's it going? How's it going? How is it going? It means your life. How is it going? How's it going? How's it going? How's your life, in other words? Good. You? We can use the same response. My life is going good. Everything is good. So going means like happening. How is your life happening? How are things in your life? Another one, how are you doing? How are you doing? Very similar to how are you, just a slight variation. We added doing here. How are you doing? Just like how are you is reduced to how are ya, we can make this how ya, how you doing? So you'll notice I use this apostrophe mark. Apostrophe is this dash here, so it makes a short sound. I removed the G in doing. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Sounds more casual and is much more commonly used than how are you doing? How you doing? Again, the answer, good. You? So I chose good here because this is the most common response to these questions. You can say great. You can say all right. You can say, not bad. All of those are fine. If you give a negative response, for example, if you say, not so good, or I feel sick, or I'm really tired, or I'm upset, you should be prepared to explain that. It's like you're starting a conversation. This is the standard response. The other person will probably say, good, and then they'll continue to the next part of their conversation. So these are some listening points. How are you changes to how are ya, and how are you doing changes to how you doing. A little more natural, a little more friendly too. Okay, let's continue to some time of day greetings. They are good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. These tend to sound a little bit more formal than just hey or hi or other greetings I'll talk about later. So good morning, used in the morning, very commonly used at work. When you arrive at the office and you see your coworkers, we use good morning to say hello first thing in the morning. Good afternoon is a little more commonly used in workplaces or in perhaps in like client or customer relationship situations. So for example, if I'm teaching a lesson and I see my students in the classroom, I come to the classroom, I say good afternoon to my students because it's sort of, there's a little bit of distance there. Good evening as well. Good evening would begin like a formal event. We could begin a formal event with good evening. We could use it at a restaurant, for example, again in a customer-client relationship. You could use it with friends and coworkers, I suppose, but it might sound a little too polite. Good evening. So it's not wrong, but it might sound a little bit formal. We would probably, with friends in the evening, we would probably just say hey or hello or how are you? That sounds a little more friendly. So to respond to these, just repeat. Again, I've marked this with a star here. Just repeat. If someone says good morning to you, you can say good morning. Something else we do here is we remove good. So this is to make it a little bit more casual. And we'll remove, as I did with doing down here, this apostrophe. We'll drop this G sound and add an apostrophe here. It's more difficult to do with afternoon. But instead of saying good morning, like clearly pronouncing everything, we'll often drop good and say morning. So there's no G sound there. Morning. I end on the N sound. Or just afternoon or evening. So it sounds much more friendly and it's not quite as polite actually. So if someone says this to you, like morning, you can just say morning. You can use the G sound as well. It's up to you to choose. Some people ask, what's the difference between good evening and have a good evening? The difference is good evening is a greeting, a way to say hello. Have a good evening is a way to say goodbye. So when you say have a good day, have a good evening, you're saying goodbye actually. So that's the difference. If you want to say hello, please use good evening. If you want to say goodbye, use have a good evening. Also, please be careful. You'll notice good night is not here. Good night is also a way to say goodbye, or especially like for children, like from parents to children, a way to say like the day is finished just before bed. So good night is used just before we go to sleep as well. So again, a goodbye. So please be careful. Not have a good evening or good night. These are greetings we can use. Good evening is a much better greeting. Well, it's the correct greeting to use. So please use good evening. Don't use good night. Okay, let's continue to the next couple. These are related. You might not know at first, but what's up? What's up? This is a question that causes people a lot of nervousness, I think. How do I respond to this? So just answer not much, not much. This is the standard reply. Just like good is the standard reply here, use not much to answer what's up. What's up? Not much. What's up? Nothing is also okay. Nothing. What's up? Nothing. Nothing, or again, we'll often drop this G sound, nothing or nothing. So that sounds more casual. So what's up? Not much. You? Nothing. Or not much. The other person will probably say the same thing. Again, if you choose to use something like, oh, I had a bad day, or you start to explain like a difficult situation, or you hint that something bad happened, you should probably be prepared to talk about that. So what's up? Not much. You? Nothing. That's a very typical greeting, actually. Okay, so then this sup comes from what's up. It comes from this S-U-P. What's up? So this is a very casual way of saying what's up. What's up is casual. This is even more casual. Sup. So you can say not much, or you can just reply to sup with sup. So you might use this, again, very close friends. Sup, sup. Like, that's it. It's like saying hello, saying what's up, what's new with you, but just really quick, really short. Sup, sup. Okay, let's move along then to kind of some more special use greetings. Depending on the situation, you might need to say hello to someone you have not seen for a long time. These are expressions you can use to do that. First one, I haven't seen you in so long, or I haven't seen you in ages. Ages, an age is a very long time, so ages shows a very, very long time. So I have not seen you. I have not seen you in so long. Another one, very common, long time no see, long time no see. One more. It's been a while. It's been a while, where this it's is actually it has been a while. It has been a while since I last saw you. It's been a while since I last saw you, but we only say it's been a while. We drop the last part of that. One more. Nice to see you again, or it's nice to see you again. Nice to see you again. So these all are like greetings we can use when we haven't seen the other person for a long time. So how do we answer this? We can answer all of these with the same pattern. First, agree. Yeah, it's been a long time. So again, you can use these expressions, you know, yeah, long time no see, or yeah, it's been a while, or I said, yeah, it's been a long time. So first, agree with the person, and then ask a follow-up. How are things? How are things? You can use this similarly to how are you or how's it going. How are things means how is your life? How are things? Good. The answer is good. How are things? Good. Or how are things? Busy. How are things? All right. Those are all very common, very standard responses to use. Others, if you want to level up your grammar a bit, how have you been? How have you been, and what have you been up to? So you'll notice here, the grammar here is very similar to these expressions that we talked about over here. How have you been? This is like a past perfect way of asking, how are you? So how are you now? How have you been in the period since I saw you last? Since the last time I saw you up until now, how have you been? That's how we can ask about that. Same thing, what have you been up to? What have you been up to is like the past perfect question of what's up? What's up? So you'll see this up, what is up now, what is up, with what have you been up to? So in other words, since I last saw you until now, what did you do? What have you been doing? So asking about those activities in that period since you last met that person. So this will change depending on your activities. You can say, for example, for this one, what have you been up to? You can answer with, for example, nothing, just work. If you have no special news, what have you been up to? Nothing, just work. So that's fine. If you have special news, you can say, you know, I got married, or I moved, or I got a new job. Something quick is the best way to answer this. For this one, how have you been? Go back to this. Good. You? So very, very simple answers are the best. Okay, let's go on to two more kind of special use greetings then. First one, it's great to finally meet you. It's great to finally meet you. So you'll see if I remove finally here, this becomes a very common greeting. It's great to meet you. It's nice to meet you. But if you're meeting someone that you admire or you really respect, or you were really excited to meet that person, like you're a fan, they're a famous musician or a celebrity or an artist or an athlete, for example, you're really excited to meet that person, you can say, it's great to finally meet you. This shows the listener that you were really looking forward to meeting them, to having the chance to meet with them. If someone says this to you, or if you use this with someone, a typical response is, thank you. It's nice to meet you too. So they'll typically say something like, thank you, or that's really nice. It's nice to meet you too. So this is just the same as any other first greeting, first time meeting someone. It's nice to meet you too. Thanks, it's nice to meet you too. Another one. This one you might hear actually when talking with friends and meeting new people, especially if you're studying or working in another country. The expression is, I've heard so much about you. I've heard so much about you. This I've heard so much about you. And sometimes I've heard so much about you from my colleagues, or I've heard so much about you from my roommate. So using from here shows where that person got the information. So this may or may not be included. I've heard so much about you. A typical response is, really? I hope nothing bad, or I hope you haven't heard anything bad. So this is kind of a very casual way to respond. I hope nothing bad, meaning I hope you haven't heard anything bad about me. So this shows that the speaker has gotten information, has gained information about the person they're meeting, but this is still the first time meeting that person. So this tends to be used in situations where the speaker has heard positive information. If you've heard negative information about a person, I don't recommend using this expression. This has a positive feel about it. I've heard so much about you. Tends to sound very happy and cheerful. So you can say, really? I hope nothing bad, or I hope it's good. So that's kind of a friendly way to start a conversation with someone who already has some information about you. So this is a quick introduction to some very common English greetings. I hope that that was helpful for you, and I hope that you got some ideas for responses to these greetings. Of course, if you have any questions or comments or want to practice greetings, please feel free to do so in the comment section of this video. Also, if you like the video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this lesson, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye. Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about the differences between in time and on time. Let's begin. Let's begin with in time, the expression in time. We use this expression to refer to activities with deadlines or limited time periods for completion. Let's take a look at some examples so we can see how to use this phrase. First, he made it to the station in time for his train. So made it means like was able to arrive. He was able to arrive to the station. He made it to the station in time for his train. This use of in time before the noun phrase his train shows us that he, in this situation, was able to arrive at the station before the deadline for his train. So his train has a specific time. There's a specific time period in which he is able to catch a train, is able to catch his train rather. So using in time shows us that he was able to do that, and we have a positive sentence here. So he made it to his train. He was able to catch his train. Let's look at another expression or another example of this expression. I finished work in time to watch the soccer game. I finished work in time to watch the soccer game. So here, in time comes before this verb phrase, to watch the soccer game. This means I finished work with enough time to watch the soccer game. So the soccer game, there's a fixed amount of time, a limited time period that I can watch the soccer game. I finished work at a point in time that allowed me to watch the soccer game. So I finished work and there was still time remaining to watch the soccer game. So we use in time to show that I was still able to do that thing. Here it's with a verb phrase. Let's continue to the next example sentence. This one is a negative. She didn't arrive at the examination center in time to take the test. In time to take the test. Here we see it's another verb phrase, in time to take the test. So in time to do this action. So this is the action here. As we've seen in each of these example sentences, the item, the noun phrase, or the verb, the activity, comes after the in time expression. So in this case, in time to take the test, but remember I pointed out this is a negative. She didn't arrive at the examination center in time to take the test. Means she didn't arrive at the center with enough time to take the test. So there was a deadline to take the test. There was some limited period of time within which she needed to arrive in order to complete this action. However, she did not arrive in time. She did not arrive within that limited time period or before that deadline, and therefore she did not take the test. Let's continue to another negative example of this. They didn't get to the concert hall in time for the show. So again here, after in time, we see for the show. In this case, it's a noun phrase. So we see this is the thing that was not able to happen. We know that it was not able to happen because of this negative. They didn't get. Get means arrive or come to. They didn't get to the concert hall in time for, meaning they weren't able to arrive before the show began or in the limited period that the show was happening. They didn't arrive in time to do that. So we use in time to show these sorts of deadlines or that we weren't able to do something within the limited time period that we have to complete that activity. We can also use this expression in questions. For example, are you going to get to the office in time for your meeting? Here we see get again, which means arrive or come to. Are you going to get to the office in time for your meeting? This is a question that's asking, are you going to arrive at the office with enough time to join this meeting? So that means a meeting is scheduled, there's some plan, and the speaker is asking the listener if the listener is going to arrive with enough time or within this limited time period to participate in this activity. So we can use this in questions as well. I pointed out throughout the example sentences too, these noun phrases and verb phrases that we see after in time. So you'll notice when we use in time for, we follow for with our noun phrase. So we saw in time for his train, or in time for the show, in time for your meeting. So these are all noun phrases. When we want to talk about a verb, however, like an action, doing some kind of action, we use to with our verb phrase, and the verb is in the infinitive form. So we saw here, time to watch the soccer game. So here's my verb in the infinitive form, in time to watch the soccer game. Here, in time to take the test. So the infinitive form of the verb is there. So when you use in time, please make sure to think about these 2 points. Is it a noun phrase? Is it a verb phrase you're talking about? Okay, so with this in mind, let's continue to the second part of this lesson, on time, on time. On time, the meaning here is it refers to activities that happen at the appointed means scheduled time. So on time, therefore, implies, or we know when we hear on time, that in the past, a schedule was set. So we decided on something. For example, like transportations or like meeting schedules, class schedules. Those kinds of timetables are very commonly used with on time. So on time refers to something happening at a scheduled time. In time refers to activities with deadlines, or there's a limited time period to complete it. Let's look at some examples of how we can use on time then. First, she arrived at the office on time. So here, what was the action? The action was this, arrived. She arrived, past tense. She arrived at the office on time. This shows us she arrived at the office at the scheduled time, or as scheduled. This is another way to say it. She arrived at the office as scheduled. She arrived at the office at the scheduled time. Let's look at one more. We finished work on time today. So we finished work at the scheduled time today is another way to say this. We finished work on time today. Not we finished work in time today. I'll come back to a point like that in just a moment. But on time shows it was scheduled. Another example, this one a negative. The game didn't start on time. The game didn't start on time shows us the game was probably late. The game didn't start on time. The game was supposed to, or the game was scheduled to start at 3 p.m., for example. But the game started at 3:30, for example. In that case, we could say the game didn't start on time, a negative. Let's look at another negative. I didn't turn in my homework on time. I didn't turn in my homework on time. So here, I did not turn in my homework, but this shows on time. This shows us the action was completed. It was just late. So I didn't turn in my homework on time at the scheduled time, in other words. The homework was due at 10 o'clock. I turned in the homework at 10:30 or 11, for example. So this sentence, I didn't turn in my homework, means the action just did not happen. I didn't turn in my homework on time means the action happened late. Okay, let's take a look at a couple other expressions. One, he's on time for his 3 p.m. meeting. He's on time for his 3 p.m. meeting. This is something you might hear, for example, a secretary or an assistant or just someone else reporting the activities of another person. He's on time for his 3 p.m. meeting. This is a sentence that means the person here, he or she, they, this person, their activities throughout the day today have led them to be in a position of being on time in the future. Now that's a very strange way to say this, I know, but it means that person has been doing many things all day long, and so now they know that they have this 3 p.m. meeting, but they've been doing all these other things, and now they're still okay. They're still okay to attend this meeting at 3 p.m. That's what this implies. He's on time for a 3 p.m. meeting. So this is typically something that's used for like busy people, to describe busy people's schedules. He's on time for this, she's on time for that. So like you might hear it used for like a president or a prime minister, like someone that has a very, very hectic or crazy schedule. You might hear people reporting about that person's schedule and that person's upcoming activities with something like this. Okay, we can use this in a question, as we saw with in time. For example, Is the conference going to finish on time? Is the conference going to finish on time means is the conference going to finish as scheduled, at the scheduled time. So you can see we use on time to refer to scheduled, to like asking questions and making statements about scheduled things. We use in time to refer to deadlines for completion of an action. I mentioned one point though, I think I talked about it here. We finished work on time today. I mentioned this is one situation where I might see some like mistakes from students. We finished work in time today. We could say this, we finished work in time today. We finished work in time today for something else. So when you're using in time, you need to explain the activity, the thing that you were able to do or not able to do when you're using in time. When you're using on time, you're referring to some past scheduled action. So you don't always need to explain the specific thing that you're talking about. So for example, she arrived at the office on time. There was some schedule, or every day she starts work at 9 a.m., for example. That's on time. When you're talking about in time, it may be a good idea to include it in your sentence here, as I've done. Occasionally, in conversation, when the activity is obvious, native speakers will drop that from in time. But you don't always need to include it with on time. It might be a good idea to include the activity with in time, however. So this is a quick introduction to some differences between in time and on time and some sample sentences. Of course, if you have any questions or comments, or if you want to practice making sentences with one of these 2 points, please feel free to do so in the comment section of this video. Of course, if you liked the video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel if you have not already, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this lesson, and I will see you again soon. Bye!
Your condition is not getting better, and you decide to go to the nearby clinic. You receive a medical report. What is the diagnosis? You receive a medical report. What is the diagnosis? The diagnosis is food poisoning caused by contaminated food. You just bought a few items from a local shop online. What information does the website say about the delivery date? What information does the website say about the delivery date? The website says that delivery dates differ depending on the delivery method, but all dates should be calculated from the next working day.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Know Your Verbs. My name is Alicia, and in this episode, we're going to talk about the verb push. Let's get started. Let's look at the basic definition of the verb push. The basic definition is to use force to move something away from you, usually. Examples: we pushed the car out of the garage. He pushed his chair into the aisle. Let's look at the conjugations for this verb. Present, push, pushes. Past, pushed. Past participle, pushed. Progressive, pushing. Now let's talk about some additional meanings for this verb. The first additional meaning is to persuade someone with force. Examples: my boss is pushing me to work more hours. Don't let them push you into a bad decision. So in both of these example sentences, we see a situation where someone is being persuaded to do something. So when we use push, it sounds like the person who is the object in the situation does not want to do the thing that's being discussed. Okay, so in the first example sentence, that means someone's boss is pushing for more overtime work. So the boss wants more overtime. However, the person involved in the situation, the person in the situation does not want to work more overtime. The boss tries to persuade, and they're kind of using force. So we use push to talk about that. The boss does not physically, I hope, push this person, but the boss pushes using words, trying to persuade, trying to use strong words to convince the other person to do overtime. In the second example sentence, don't let them push you into a bad decision. It's like there's some outside force, outside person that's trying to convince the listener, in this case, to make a decision, but the decision might be a bad decision for the listener. So in other words, it means don't let them persuade you, or don't let them convince you to make a choice that's bad for you. Don't let them push you into a bad decision. The second additional meaning for the verb push is to advertise something a lot. To advertise something a lot. Examples: we're really pushing our PDF cheat sheets lately. What products should we push at the trade show? Little joke about our PDF cheat sheets there. Totally my joke. They didn't tell me to put it in. But anyway, so when I say we've been pushing our PDF cheat sheets recently, it means we've been advertising that product a lot. We've been advertising our PDF cheat sheets a lot, like on our live streams and on our website and everywhere, like on our social media. It means we're advertising that thing a lot. So that's the thing that we hope people see. We want people to check out that item. The second example sentence is a question. What products do we want to push at the trade show? Meaning, what's the focus advertisement, or what are the items we really, really want people to look at and we want to show as much as possible? What products do we want to push at the trade show? Okay, let's go on to the third additional meaning. The third additional meaning is to try to go beyond something. Let's look at some examples first. Marathon runners push the limits of their bodies. The engineers are really pushing the capabilities of the software. So in these example sentences, we see there's some kind of limit, like in the first example, it's body limits. So marathon runners try to push the limits of their bodies, meaning the body has some established limit. Like that means the body can do this amount. So in this case, it's marathon running. So maybe the body could run 3 to 4 hours at a time, for example, or the body can run at this speed. I don't know. It's a lot. So marathon runners try to push this limit, means they try to go beyond this limit. That's the image we're looking at here. So marathon runners try to push the limits of their bodies, try to go beyond the limits of their bodies. The second example sentence is the same, but we're talking about software capabilities. So here, the capabilities of the software are the limit. So the engineers are pushing the capabilities of the software. So now the software can do this, but maybe the engineers are making updates, are making changes, and they're trying to go beyond the current limits of the software. So this is maybe a nice visual, I suppose, for this meaning of the verb push. Okay, let's look at the fourth one. The fourth additional meaning for the verb push is to approach a number, to approach a number. Let's look at some examples. Sales are pushing into the millions this year. Grandpa is pushing 90. So we use this when we're like wanting to express usually a high number, actually. When we're talking about low numbers, we don't really use push. Push sounds like you're approaching a big milestone. So in the first example sentence, sales are pushing into the millions. It's like we're going to reach this milestone of millions of sales. So that's a really important number. So we can use pushing into, which is like, it sounds like it's an achievement. We're going to move into the millions of sales, but pushing sounds like a little bit like it was kind of a struggle, maybe. And so it's like a special achievement to reach this point. The second example sentence is similar, but we see it with age. So grandpa is pushing 90 means he's almost 90. Maybe he's 89 right now, or 88 perhaps, but he's nearly at the level of 90 years old. So that might be a difficult thing to do, to live to 90 years old. It sounds like an achievement, and so it sounds like something that could be a struggle. So we can use pushing to refer to nearly reaching that point. We typically use this in the progressive form, actually. We don't use this in past tense or in present tense, really. We don't say like, he pushes or she pushed 90 or something like that. We tend to use it in the progressive form to mean like, this is happening now. Sales are pushing into the millions. Grandpa is pushing 90. Like right now, he's approaching 90. So, interesting one. Let's move on to some variations for this verb. The first variation for the verb push is to push your luck, to push your luck. So this has a very long explanation. To push your luck means to try too hard to get more of something you already have and then risk losing what you already have with you. Okay, so let's look at some examples. It's hard to see. Okay, first one. He agreed to take out the trash. I probably shouldn't push my luck and ask him to clean the kitchen too. Don't push your luck. The department isn't likely to make any more budget changes. So in the first example sentence, he agreed to take out the trash. So that's like the achievement. The speaker got that. He agreed to take out the trash. The speaker also wants this person to clean the kitchen, but they think, I shouldn't push my luck, meaning I shouldn't try too hard to get something more from this person. I shouldn't try too hard for more from this person because he might quit and stop doing the task he originally agreed to do. So I want him to clean the kitchen, yes, but I'll stop. I shouldn't try too hard because he might quit. The second example sentence, there's kind of a subtle thing going on there. The second example sentence says, don't push your luck. So that's an advice statement. The department isn't likely to make any more budget changes. So this sentence implies, we can guess, that the listener already got some kind of budget update or maybe a budget increase. The person speaking in this situation is advising, don't try to get more, in other words. Like, don't try to ask for another budget change or another budget update, because if you ask, you might lose the update you already received. So don't push your luck means don't try to ask for more of the thing. You might lose what you already gained. The second variation for the verb push is to push around. To push around means to bully someone, to have mean behavior towards someone that has no meaning. There's no reason for it. You just push them around. They're smaller or they're not as powerful as you. And so you can actually visually see this, like to physically push someone around or to push someone with your words as well. Examples. Don't let your coworkers push you around. You shouldn't push people around just because they're different from you. So to push around means probably in most cases using your words to push people around. I can't think of many cases except in like schools where someone would physically just push people around. Yeah. In most cases it's with words. So you're using like mean words or kind of bullying behavior to try to make yourself sound better than another person. So don't push people around. In other words, you should try to be equal with other people. So both of these example sentences show that. The second example sentence, you shouldn't push people around just because they're different from you, means you shouldn't bully people just because of a difference, because of the way they look or the way they sound or where they work or live or whatever. So you should not do that. You should not push people around. In other words, you should be kind to people. So those are a few new ways. I hope that you can use the verb push. If you have any questions or comments, or if you know another way to use the word push, please feel free to let us know in the comment section of this video. Of course, if you like the video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel too if you have not already. Also, come check us out at EnglishClass101.com for other good English study tools. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and we will see you again soon. Bye-bye. This is me pushing. Good fun, everybody. Great work. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Know Your Verbs. My name is Alicia, and in this episode, we're going to talk about the verb adopt. Let's get started. Okay, let's start with the basic definition of the verb adopt. The basic definition is to legally take another person's child and raise the child as one's own. Examples. One of my family members was adopted. Have you ever thought about adopting a child? Now let's take a look at the conjugations for this verb. Present, adopt, adopts. Past, adopted. Past participle, adopted. Progressive, adopting. Now let's talk about some additional meanings for this verb. The first additional meaning is to take and use, usually something that is new. Examples. She adopted an upbeat personality for the evening. Maybe the company should adopt a new strategy. So these sentences use the word adopt as in like finding something new or finding something that's not usually used, but putting that thing to use in that situation. So this is a rather open meaning, I know. So let's look at the first example sentence to get a little bit more detailed. In the first example sentence, we see she adopted an upbeat personality for the evening. So adopted in this meaning means to take something and to put it to use, something that's new. So that means she isn't usually an upbeat person necessarily, but for this evening, she had this idea to have an upbeat personality. So she decided to become a more upbeat person for the evening. So that means it's something different from her past behavior. So for the evening only, she decided to be upbeat. She adopted an upbeat personality for the evening. In the second sentence, maybe the company should adopt a new strategy. We see adopt being used to mean like take on a new strategy. Maybe the company should take on some kind of new strategy is what this sentence means. But adopt is a quick and easy way to say that. To take something, like to take an idea in and to put the idea to use is like adopt, to adopt an idea, to adopt a strategy in this way. Let's look at the second additional meaning for adopt. The second additional meaning is to accept something and implement it. Examples. The government has adopted a new policy. We adopted the architect's proposals for our new home. So here we're seeing adopt used very similarly to the first additional meaning. However, it means that there's something that's accepted. So like there was some outside idea, like some kind of proposal that's presented somewhere to somebody, some group, and then it's accepted. Following the acceptance, it's implemented. That idea is used. It's put into effect. So there's kind of this flow happening with this use of adopt. So it's not only taking on something new and using it like we saw in the first additional meaning. It's like there are a few different steps. There's like a proposal, a new idea, acceptance of that idea, and then use of that thing. In the first example sentence, it's about the government. The government has adopted a new policy. Means a new policy was presented to the government accepted the policy, and the government is now using that new policy. So there are effects of that new policy. There are all these different stages of the new policy. So the government has adopted a new policy means it's at this final stage. So now this new policy is like in effect. So it's been accepted and now it's going to be in effect if it's not in effect already. In the second example sentence, we adopted the architect's proposals for our new home. We see the same sort of flow. So there was some idea from the architect presented to the client accepted the idea, and the architect put it into practice. The architect put it into effect. So there's some acceptance and then implementation of that thing. So they adopted the ideas, in other words. So they took on that ideas and put them into use, into practice. The next additional meaning is to promise to care for something, to promise to care for something. Some examples. Our community group adopted a park. The organization is adopting a highway and plans regular cleaning. So in this use of adopt, we're often not talking about a person being adopted. Rather, it's a place. Like in the examples here, it's a park, or you might often hear a highway or some other kind of community space. So to adopt that space, to adopt that location, means to care for that location. In many cases, adopting a park or adopting a highway or something similar means that a person or an organization pays some money and their name becomes attached to that location, but they are also then responsible for caring for that location. So you might see this on highways. Like I remember when I was growing up on the highways in California, it would say adopt a highway program on the signs there. So to adopt a highway means to give some money, have your name attached to that part of the highway, and then have some responsibility for caring for that part of the highway. So there might be some community places that have been adopted by people or by organizations in the city. So there's some kind of name recognition, yes, but there's also responsibility to care for that. So it's adopting, like adopting a child, I suppose, but we're adopting a place. We have to care for that place, make sure the place is nicely maintained and is safe and good for the community, essentially. So in addition to this, you'll also see adopt used to talk about pets. This can be used more to talk about adopting animals from shelters. So we don't really use adopt when we talk about buying a pet from a pet store. Rather, adopting a pet is something that occurs more when an animal is in a shelter, like the animal has been like lost, or the animal has been abused, or bad or negative past experience. There are a number of reasons why animals might be in a shelter, but people who come to the shelter and choose a pet from the shelter, we can use the verb adopt to describe that activity of choosing a pet and taking the pet home. In that case also, to adopt a pet means to come to a shelter and choose a pet and take the pet home with the promise of caring for that pet. So feeding the pet, cleaning the pet, making a safe environment for the pet too. So adopt can mean a location. It can mean for children, as we talked about in the basic definition. And we can also use adopt to talk about pets as well, pets that we can find at shelters too. Okay,
So I hope that you found a new way to use the verb adopt in your everyday life. If you have any questions or comments, or if you want to try to make a sentence with the verb adopt, please feel free in the comment section of this video. Of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for other good English study resources. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye. Hey everyone! Welcome to the Monthly Review, the monthly show on language learning, where you discover new learning strategies, motivational tips, study tools, and resources. By the way, all the lessons and bonuses you're about to see can be downloaded for free on our website. So click the link in the description right now to sign up for your free lifetime account. Okay, today's topic is 5 ways to make sure you start on the right foot with language learning. Ever wondered if you're on the right path with your language learning? Or if you're studying the right things and taking the right steps? Well, today you'll learn how to start on the right foot with your language learning journey. We'll talk about 1. Why you must know your reason for learning the language. 2. How to set fail-proof goals and rewards. 3. How to match your daily routine to your learning so that you don't struggle with the actual learning. 4. Why you need anchor points for long-term motivation. And 5. How to improve faster with ongoing assessment. How to start off on the right foot with your language learning journey. There are 5 things you, as a language learner, need to address if you want to start off on the right foot. Here they are. 1. Your reason for learning. 2. Your goal and reward. 3. Matching your routine to your medium. 4. Anchor points. And 5. Assessment. If you get these squared away in your first month, you'll be set up to succeed with any language goal you set. And today, we'll walk you through each point. The first one, your reason for learning. Why are you learning the language? So, why is thinking about your why so important? Here's an example. Think back to when you were a kid and you were trying to save money. What was the first thing you wanted to buy, and how much did it cost? You probably still remember what it was and how much it cost. And because you knew the specific price, you were able to save up for it. If not, at the very least, you made more progress than if you just said, I want to save money, with no specific purpose in mind. And that's the thing. If you know precisely why you're doing something, it's easy to tie a goal to it. And there are all kinds of reasons to learn a language. There's travel, family, friends, love, or maybe you're living in a country that speaks it. So knowing your reason clarifies your mission and gives you motivation from the start. Now, some reasons are stronger than others. For example, living in a country that speaks the language is a powerful reason. You need it for survival. If your reason for learning is something simpler, like, I just want to watch TV in that language, it's not exactly something you need to survive. Does it matter whether you have a strong reason or not? Not necessarily. Strong reasons help with motivation initially, but people with strong reasons can and do fail, and people with weak reasons succeed. It's all up to the individual. But the point is, you need to know why you're doing this, and that's enough for you to take the first step. The second point, goals and rewards. Once you've clarified your reason, it's time to set your goals. If you want to succeed, your goal can't just be, I want to be fluent one day. Why? Because this tells you nothing about how you'll achieve it or when you'll reach fluency. It's too vague. Your goal needs to be small, measurable, realistic, and have a deadline, so you can clearly see the steps you need to take to reach your goal. Instead of saying, I want to be fluent one day, which you can't measure and can't precisely determine, aim for example, 30 words or 1 minute of conversation. You can measure these goals. If you have a deadline like by next month, you know your time frame. And unlike a goal like I want to be fluent, a goal like I want to be able to talk for 1 minute is much more realistic. Now, what about rewards? Now that you've set a goal, you need to tie rewards to your goal. Why rewards? Shouldn't you work hard first and worry about rewards later? Because rewards are powerful motivators, you should be working hard. But hard work often is not fun, and you need something to push you through. When you come home after a long day of work on a rainy day, soaking wet, the last thing you want to do is open a book and start studying. It's so much easier to turn on Netflix or something.
but having that reward reminds you, if I achieve this, then I get that. So defining what's in it for me, what do I get, boosts your motivation. You have something to look forward to and get you through times when you don't feel like doing work. The third point is match your routine to the study medium. Once you have your goals and rewards, you need to fit your language learning into your current life and daily routine. How? Sit down and write out your daily schedule for every day of the week. For example, wake up at 7 a.m., breakfast at 8 a.m., get on the bus at 9 a.m., work from 9:30 a.m., lunch at 1 p.m., and so on. Do this for every day of the week. That way, you can see where you can fit in learning. For example, if you ride the bus in the morning, you can use that time to listen to our audio lessons. Why do this? Well, language learning is a brand new routine. If you don't work from your existing daily routines, it may not work out. For example, if you decide to wake up an hour earlier to study, now you're adding 2 new routines. Waking up earlier and learning a language at once. 1 is hard enough, but 2 makes it even harder. You may not wake up on time. You may not get out of bed. You may fall right back to sleep. The point here is you should piggyback off of your existing routines and use a learning medium that matches your routine. So instead of waking up earlier, keep your daily routine, but look for another way to introduce language learning. Write out your daily routine, see where you spend your time, and then match your routine to learning. If you take walks and listen to music, swap out music for language lessons and listen along. If you take the bus or train, check out our audio and video lessons. If you usually read in the evenings and can focus, try using a textbook. In all of these examples, you're taking an existing routine and adding language learning inside. The fourth point is set anchor points. Anchor points are the connections you make to a language that boost your motivation and keep you attached or anchored to your goal so you don't slip away. So what's an example of an anchor point? For example, if you have friends or relatives that speak the language, and if you're around them and you're exposed to the language, you're more likely to learn. Same thing with watching TV shows in the target language. You're exposed to it more, so your interest in learning naturally goes up. Also, investing in a textbook or learning program, signing up for classes, or for a proficiency test. All of these are anchor points that connect you back to the language. Why do you need anchor points? Oftentimes, your initial reason for learning the language isn't as motivating as it used to be. Maybe you were motivated in month 1, but not in month 5. That's why people with strong reasons might fail. So an anchor point gives you another reason to keep going and boosts your motivation. And also, oftentimes, the reason we start isn't the same as the reason we continue. Anchor points are not something you need to worry about in your first month of learning, but adding them in the second month and afterward will help you keep going. Can you think of any anchor points you can add? Leave a comment. Finally, the fifth point is you need assessment. Now that you have goals, rewards, a routine, and anchor points, it's not enough to learn a language alone in a vacuum. You need feedback and course correction from a native speaker. With our learning program, you can learn with your very own teacher. You can also leave comments on lessons and get answers from the others. Or you can find a tutor of your own, someone that will assess your progress and correct you as needed. So, let's recap. There are 5 things you, as a language learner, need to address if you want to start off on the right foot. 1. Clarify your reason for learning. 2. Set goals and rewards. 3. Match your routine with your study medium. 4. Set anchor points. And 5. Get ongoing assessment. So thank you for watching this episode of Monthly Review. Next time, we'll talk about how to deal with missed language goals and failure. If you enjoyed these tips, hit the like button, share the video with anyone who's trying to learn a language, and subscribe to our channel. We release new videos every week. And if you're ready to finally learn language the fast, fun, and easy way and start speaking from your very first lesson, get our complete learning program. Sign up for your free lifetime account right now. Click the link in the description. See you next time. Bye! Want to cut your language studying time in half? In this video, you'll discover how learning a language using PDF lessons is convenient, efficient, and can help you cut your studying time nearly in half. Many people give up on their dream of learning a second language because traditional classroom instruction is too much of a hassle. Between getting to class, studying on someone else's schedule, and just the sheer expense of the books and tuition, traditional learning can be tough. Many people simply give up. Online classes are an option, but sometimes limited data plans can derail the dream of learning a new language. Fortunately, there is a solution: learning language using PDF lesson notes. Let's take a closer look at how studying language lessons in PDF format can help you reach your dream in about half the time of normal video or audio lessons. First, print all lessons and PDF tools and take them with you anywhere. Sometimes a tiny smartphone screen just isn't adequate, especially when you're trying to learn something new. The great thing about PDF lessons is that they can be quickly printed and taken anywhere after you download them. In fact, printing out lessons in PDF format can actually save you time when compared to going through the material on a smartphone with a small screen, even with the extra printing time. Second, they're a great study tool to boost retention and mastery. Studying video or audio lessons online is a great way to learn a language because students can play and rewind sections as many times as needed until the lesson is mastered. But when you review the same lessons again in PDF format, an incredible thing happens. Your retention dramatically improves. Thanks to time-spaced repetition, seeing the information again in written format helps reinforce the information in your mind and improves both retention and recall. The benefits of learning a language using PDF lessons quickly add up to significant time savings for you, your data plan, and your dream of learning a new language. Third, all lessons in PDF format include in-depth instructor notes. We have thousands of HD video and audio lessons, and each one includes a PDF version with a line-by-line transcript, so you can read along with the lesson as it appears online. In addition to the line-by-line transcript, all lessons include in-depth instructor notes with more information, sample sentences, explanations, and translations. The additional information and notes help you learn faster and with greater mastery than using the video or audio lessons alone. And when paired with language learning video games, video and audio lessons, or other study aids, our PDF lessons help you reach your dream of learning a new language faster and easier than many traditional classroom settings. Fourth, you can download the world's largest online collection of lessons by real instructors. Planning on going on vacation and don't know if you'll have reliable internet service? If you're learning through PDF lessons, it's not a problem. Once you download lessons in PDF format to your smartphone, PC, or favorite media device, they are yours to use and keep forever. Once downloaded, you can either print out or access your lessons in PDF format, regardless of internet access. When you consistently learn through PDF lessons, the time savings and benefits quickly compound. From quicker access to faster learning, PDF lessons can potentially reduce total study time required to learn a concept. Our PDF lessons include instructor notes and supplemental resources that help you learn faster and with less effort. So, if you're ready to finally learn a new language the fast, fun, and easy way, sign up for your free lifetime account by clicking on the link in the description. Signing up takes less than 30 seconds, and you'll start speaking from your very first lesson. If you enjoyed these tips, hit the like button, share the video with anyone who's trying to learn a new language, and subscribe to our channel. We release new videos every week. I'll see you next time. Bye! Are you afraid of making mistakes in your target language? Afraid you'll never ever be able to have a conversation or give a presentation? Or maybe you're afraid of something else. In this video, we'll cover 4 fears related to language learning and how to overcome them. The first one is, I'm afraid I'm not good enough to speak. I freeze. Do you feel like you're not good enough to speak yet? A lot of people can relate to this one. Probably all language learners have felt this at some point. It's a pretty common fear. Here are some tips to overcome it. First, speak from day one. The best way to get good at speaking is to practice speaking. If you're holding yourself back because you think you're not good enough, you're making a mistake. That's exactly why you're not improving. You need to open your mouth and start talking. Second, if you're not sure what to say to start speaking, consider practicing with existing dialogues. In our lessons, you get scripts for introducing yourself, making small talk, ordering food, expressing opinions, and much more. If you're looking for some things to use for speaking practice, the lessons will give you the exact lines and conversations. Our third tip, learn with your own teacher with our Premium Plus plan.
With Premium Plus, you get an actual native speaker teacher to tell you what to say and how to say it. You can actually learn to speak with the help of a real native teacher. Fear number 2 is, I'm afraid I'll never be fluent. This is a common fear for beginner learners. Once you start improving and seeing progress, this goes away. When you're just starting out with a new language, fluency can feel like an impossible goal. There are so many new things to learn and so many methods you can use. It's easy to get overwhelmed with all the options. But you can't let yourself fall into that trap. The longer you keep at it, the better your language skills will become. And slowly, you'll stop worrying about fluency. What's important is that you put in time and continue working on moving forward. So, how do you overcome worries about never becoming fluent? How do you motivate yourself to continue? First, set small, specific goals instead of just saying, I want to become fluent. How do you know when you've become fluent? Fluency is hard to determine. Instead of creating a vague, hard-to-understand goal for yourself, focus on working towards smaller goals. For example, set goals like being able to introduce yourself or having a 5-minute conversation, something you can measure so you'll know when you've reached it. Fluency can be difficult to measure. If you set goals that you can measure, you can track your progress. This helps keep your motivation up over time. The third fear is, I'm afraid I'm not actually learning or making progress. If you're afraid you're not making progress, there are a few things you can do right now. First of all, review. A lot of people hear a new phrase once and think they'll remember it, but that usually doesn't happen. So when they forget what they've learned, they get worried that they're not learning, or that the lessons don't work. But the truth is, you have to review again and again to truly master something. Second, use the dashboard to track your progress. If numbers and data are helpful for you as you track your learning, check out our dashboard. It tracks your progress and gives you dynamic reports. Third, try a harder lesson on the site. You might not understand it all at first, and that's okay. You'll be able to after some study. All lessons come with line-by-line translations, and our teachers explain every single word. Break down these harder lessons. If you have to work a little more slowly, it's okay. When you finish the lesson, you can be sure of your progress because you'll be able to understand something you didn't understand a few minutes earlier. Fourth, learn one-on-one with a teacher with our Premium Plus plan. They will personally review your writing and your speaking and will fix your mistakes. Getting regular feedback from a native speaker is a great way to know if you're making progress. It's such a great feeling to hear a native speaker tell you, wow, you're getting good. The fourth fear is, I'm afraid of not understanding anything I hear. This is very common. You hear advanced grammar and vocabulary and it goes completely over your head. You have no idea what you've just heard. Here are some tips for working on this issue. If you're taking an advanced lesson, read along with the script. Reading along with our line-by-line dialogue is the best way to improve your understanding of advanced conversations. If you're in a real-life situation, the solution is quite simple. Learn useful phrases like, excuse me, can you say it again slower? Or, can you say it in simpler words? Or even just, I don't understand. There's nothing wrong with saying that you didn't understand something or asking for help. These are some common fears for most language learners, and we hope these tips help you. Is there anything else that you're afraid of when it comes to learning another language? Let us know in the comments, and maybe we can share some suggestions for how to overcome them. For the tools we've talked about in this video and much more, check out our complete language learning program. Sign up for your free lifetime account by clicking on the link in the description. Get tons of resources to have you speaking in your target language. And if you enjoyed these tips, hit the like button, share the video with anyone who's trying to learn a new language, and subscribe to our channel. We release new videos every week. I'll see you next time. Bye! Are you struggling to reach your language learning goals or losing motivation for learning? In this video, we're going to talk about how to reach your goals, how to enjoy the process, and the importance of rewarding yourself. Part 1. How to reach your language goals. It's pretty exciting when you reach a goal. You know your hard work is paid off, and you can see your results. But how do you set goals to ensure you can reach them and get that feeling of satisfaction? The best way to see real results and achieve your language learning goals is to set small, measurable goals. Many people make the mistake of setting big, vague goals, like I want to be fluent, or I want to speak a new language. Then they download an app or get a textbook and they try to reach their goal.
But they quickly give up because the goal they've set for themselves is too overwhelming. This is why it's important to set small, measurable, monthly or weekly goals from the beginning of your studies. Reaching your goals helps you develop confidence in yourself and your ability to get things done. For example, you might make it a goal to be able to have a 1-minute conversation by the end of your first month of studies and have a 2-minute conversation by the end of month 2. Maybe after 6 months, you aim to have a 10-minute conversation with someone. Specific, measurable goals like these help you track your progress and prevent you from getting overwhelmed. By creating small goals like these, you set yourself up for success. When you reach one of your goals, even if it's a small one, you feel a sense of accomplishment. This helps you enjoy the learning process, which is the next topic we're going to focus on. Part 2. How to enjoy the language learning process. If you're always focused on goals and results, though, how do you enjoy the process of learning a language? Okay, so let's say that in addition to larger goals, you've made small, realistic goals like learning 100 words in a month. That's 3 to 4 words per day. Goals like these are very easy to accomplish, and when you complete them, it feels good. This is one of the enjoyable parts of learning a language. So, imagine accomplishing small goals all throughout your week. It's a great way to keep your motivation up and enjoy the process of learning. Smaller goals can help you stay on track and keep your confidence up. When we feel like we're not making progress, we can get frustrated and lose motivation. Think about days when you're super busy at work or at school. Some days, you might be so busy you don't complete any tasks. When nothing seems to move forward, we can lose confidence in ourselves and feel like quitting. This is why giving yourself some small, easy-to-accomplish goals can be extremely helpful. You can approach your studies with confidence because you know that you're working towards your next goal and that you can actually achieve it. Here's something you can try if you feel like your progress has slowed down. Go back and review something you studied a few weeks or a few months earlier. Try to remember how difficult it was at first. Looking over past materials can help us understand how much we've grown. The same thing is true for conversations. When you start learning a language, you'll learn things like how to introduce yourself, ask basic questions, and talk about the weather. After a few months of study, though, you'll learn how to talk about your hobbies, your neighborhood, or your personality. It's sometimes hard to remember just how much progress we've made, but look back on your work from time to time. All those hours you put in are reflected in your current abilities. It's exciting when you realize how far you've come. Of course, some people might also reflect on mistakes they made, especially if these mistakes led to miscommunications with native speakers. While these memories can be embarrassing, they can still be useful for your studies. Try to shift your mindset towards mistakes. Making an embarrassing mistake can be helpful in the long run because we remember the experience vividly and we want to avoid repeating it. If the mistake wasn't so embarrassing, maybe you can laugh about it and use that memory to ensure you make the right decision in the future. Lastly, we want to remind everyone of the most enjoyable part of the language learning process: the new friends, connections, and experiences you gain through the language. You can use the language you're studying as a tool to create friendships, to meet new people, and to travel. If you ever get to a point where learning isn't fun or interesting anymore, take a moment and consider why. Are you getting overwhelmed? Falling behind on your goals? If your schedule has changed or your goals have changed, that's fine. Adjust your study plan and your study goals to make the learning process work for you. Revise your approach and make sure you're enjoying learning. Part 3. The importance of rewards. If you haven't gotten into the practice of rewarding yourself for reaching a goal, now is a great time to start. A reward can be a powerful way to motivate yourself to complete a goal. If your reward is travel or event related, it can also act as a finite deadline. This can push you to focus even more. You can decide to reward yourself with something you buy, with an experience, or maybe just with some time to relax. Choose a reward that will work best for you. Positive reinforcement can be very helpful in the learning process. It's one thing to hit a goal and feel good about it, but if you have a reward too, it seals the deal. It helps you keep the cycle going and will help you keep learning. So today we covered goal setting, how to enjoy the process of learning, and the importance of rewards. Make sure you set small, measurable goals in addition to your larger goals. Find ways to enjoy the process of studying, and make sure to reward yourself for your achievements. Learning a language should be fun and satisfying. For some more resources to help you reach your goals, check out our complete language learning program. Sign up for your free lifetime account by clicking on the link in the description. Get tons of resources to have you speaking in your target language. And if you enjoyed these tips, hit the like button, share the video with anyone who's trying to learn a new language, and subscribe to our channel. We release new videos every week. I'll see you next time. Bye! Want to speak and understand more of your target language? If so, of course, you'll need to know more words and phrases than you do now. In this video, we'll cover 5 ways to master new words and phrases fast. Number 1. Use our free vocabulary list. This is a free library of vocabulary and phrase lessons for all kinds of situations. You can learn words and phrases for current events, holidays like Halloween and Thanksgiving, and useful topics, like the top 10 ways to say hello, conversational phrases, and more. You'll learn phrases that you won't find in textbooks. If you want to learn extra fast, use the slideshow tool. Just tap or click on View Slideshow, then sit back and review the words and phrases. Find the vocabulary lists in the vocabulary drop-down menu on the site. These vocabulary lists are free for all users. Number 2. Take the audio and video lessons. One of the best ways to learn new words is by hearing and using them in conversations. This is because it gives you the opportunity to understand how the words are actually used. In every lesson dialogue, you'll likely come across some words you don't know. But don't worry, because our teachers translate everything. When you hear the conversation again at the end of the lesson, you'll be familiar with the words you didn't know at first. Number 3. Learn with our 2,000 most common words list. A quick question. How many words do you think you need for conversational fluency? 3,000? 5,000? It's actually not as many as you think. Language experts say you need about 1,500 words to reach conversational fluency. With our 2,000 most common words list, you'll get access to key vocabulary words you need to boost your conversation skills. The words are broken down into simple categories, such as adjectives, nouns, verbs, food, drinks, numbers, months, and so on. So you can go category by category and focus on what you're most interested in first. With this tip, we're not talking about paper flashcards. We're talking about the smart flashcards that you can find in our premium study tools. This is an automatic system individualized for each member based on their study needs. First, you'll use the cards to check your knowledge. Then, according to your answers, the cards will be sorted according to which words you need more practice with. Words that you struggle with will be shown to you more and more. You'll see words that you know well less often. This system helps you study more efficiently. It displays the words you need to work on and knows when you should refresh your knowledge. This helps make sure you don't forget vocabulary. In every study session, these cards will help you refresh your memory on the words you learned last time and introduce new words. Number 5. Use the words. After you learn a new word, using it right away is crucial to remembering it. So, when you're done with a lesson or a vocab list, here's something you can do. Leave a comment. Make up a sample sentence and post it in the comment section. Write it down in a notebook, or shadow the word with a lessons dialogue. Our language learning program is full of tools that can help you speak more. Just pick one and get started. If you want to unlock all of these study tools, check out our complete language learning program. Sign up for your free lifetime account by clicking on the link in the description. Get tons of resources to have you speaking in your target language. And if you enjoyed these tips, hit the like button, share the video with anyone who's trying to learn a new language, and subscribe to our channel. We release new videos every week. I'll see you next time. Bye! Great work! Here's a reward. Speed up your language learning with our PDF lessons. Get all of our best PDF cheat sheets and ebooks for free. Just click the link in the description.